Alright guys, so welcome back to C.I.K Gaming and other things. Yesterday's video was on humility, kind of a rough overview, not really worth expanding upon too much more. Humility is just the concept of being amazing, awesome, terrible, whatever, understanding where you're at in relation to other things, other people, and then understanding how to get better by having a very, very balanced view of the world, of yourself, and everything that you do in it. And in that video I was talking about kind of things that have been happening with a video series, or a video that I posted, and how the systems are basically actively trying to like not let the video go like the way that videos like that usually go. It's trying to go viral, and likes are being taken away from it, views are being taken away from it, etc., etc. And in that, it was an older video that I had. This and I referenced something that needs to be put in context with the Christian values, with the red or the blue pill, with things like that. And it's something that the Christian community is really, really bad about. They're not like they're really, really bad about this. Basically, the concept here is we look at the creation of the universe in a way, all life that we know, fabric of reality, whatever you want to, whatever theological or scientific way you want to approach this, but we look at the creation of everything. There has to be some order to it, of course. There has to be some kind of a creator, designer, a whole different series of talking points and arguments and evidence to support this or evidence to support that, blah, blah, blah. Not typically really too concerned with that. I spent a lot of life researching that and found what makes sense, what is, I wouldn't say scientifically repeatable, but it can't be disproven either. And I'm not talking about the flying spaghetti monster theory. I'm talking about like the God of the Bible, God in general, the concept of it. So I need to pretext this, why I respect Satan video, with two things. One is because a lot of the times if you don't know something in depth, understand it intimately, you'll naturally kind of disrespect it. You know, if your wife doesn't know really what you've been through at work, she can inadvertently kind of ask you to do too much. Simple little things like that. And that's not a that's not a telling in my home life kind of thing. That's just the first illustration that popped up. She doesn't, your woman may not know what you're like truly capable of, and in that she may not respect you physically or whatever. So she might push your buttons, kind of poke the tail of the tiger, or pull the tail of the tiger kind of thing, until you show her. And then she adds a whole new level of respect, regardless, depending on how I guess you decide to show her. One of the things that in the Christian community I watch as, I would call them relatively fake Christians, generally speaking, because their experiences are not really unique. I don't think they really worship the true and living God in the way that, you know, He intended necessarily. They do in a way and they don't. The way they do and don't, they'll never be able to comprehend. But generally speaking, the problem with Christians as of right now is it's a trend. It happened. It started maybe 4 years ago or something. That's when I first started. Or I said not when I started, but when I first found out about Christians not believing in demons as like real, literal, like actual things, and instead they replaced the term demon with more of a psychological, clinical, metaphorical term. You know, a demon is a manifestation of the negative aspects that we exhibit, and that's extremely dangerous, because if you start that, if the Christian community starts down that path, then a lot of the stuff that Christ does has no value. It still has value regardless of what people think, but what I'm saying is, like, from a theology and from a teaching standpoint, if we start letting Christian children believe that demons are not real, you know, it's just simply kind of a fictitious wives' tale to tell you don't do something bad or this demon will take you, then a great deal of the battle that Christ had to fight, 40 days in the wilderness with being tempted directly by Satan, that means that's not true anymore. Because if demons aren't real, then Satan's not real, then God's not real, then angels aren't real. Then we're back to the single-celled microorganism turning into all of created civilization that we see before us. And it all comes from, it doesn't all, but it can all come from that one contextual argument that demons are just metaphorical, made-up figments, like outward manifestations of the evil that mankind can generate, which I'm not expanding upon that, because then you have to go into the whole atheistic worldview, which is where without God you can't have a right and wrong, you can't have a good and evil, etc. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. We're just talking about, my viewpoint is that God is real and that Christ did everything that he said he did. Any mistranslations in the Bible are actually done from a political standpoint to keep people from knowing the whole truth in a way that actually breaks systems and causes civil wars. I found a bunch of them, translational issues, things like that. And it's actually cool because every one I've ever found has been, once you find the translated issue, it opens up new truth. It doesn't change the context of the Bible. I'm not talking about them because that's something I think I feel like that's something that people need to search for on your own, to have a better understanding of God and to actually kind of be like rewarded, It's like some stuff you need to put the work in to be able to do, not just take somebody's viewpoint on it or take somebody's word on it. A random YouTube video says this and you're like, oh, I believe that now, and then you argue that point forward, which is what most of the people in the world do. They'll watch the doctors on television and all of a sudden now they have their PhD and I know everything. But the topic of today's video, because it's going to be really short, the first rambling is really just the contextual pretext to understand kind of the viewpoint that I have about Satan, his kingdom, and why I've actually come to respect it from a theological standpoint. And my actual stance and my viewpoint on it, going forward. And that basically, the video is, why do I respect Satan? And I respect Satan for two reasons. One is because in my study of, as many things God as I could possibly study, I've come across some fairly interesting, theological issues. And one of those being the actual creation process. Not with earth and man, but with God and angel. And then the relationship, obviously, between God and Satan. And Satan being the number 2 angel in heaven, if that's the accurate term for that, means that in all of creation, he was number 2. He was just below God in terms of ability, power, stature, standing, rank, whatever you want to call it. That means something, really. That means a lot. Does that make sense? Like that means something, right? Of everything he made, Satan was his number 2. Different kind of, I don't know what the reason is necessarily, and anybody who does, they weren't there, so they don't know. But nobody knows the exact reason Satan fell. Like, what was the single thing that he did that caused him to be cast out of heaven and have his kingdom set up upon the earth? And whatever that was, it does two things. Because I guess from a demonic standpoint, you're forced into obeying God, or you're punished with eternal damnation. And the problem with that is that it goes all the way back around to something that Christ says in the New Testament, which is when he's being questioned, I think by the doctor, and the doctor is like, calls him good sir, and he goes, there is no good, there's only God. And that context means a lot, because that essentially means is that good is God, and the things that are good are of God. So you don't have good and bad, you have godly and ungodly. It's a pretty simple concept. And that fits in with the worldview that I have, that at any given moment, there's two opposing forces working on us pretty much at any time. There's God's kingdom, which is, the good. And then you have the kingdom of darkness. You have Satan's kingdom, which is the opposite of God's. So, what is Satan's kingdom? Like, what is it that he wants? Well, he wants the praise and the worship like God has. He wants the followers. He wants the same thing that God has, but he has to set up his kingdom opposite. So what we do is we look at certain establishments, and we see how they live, and we see how they act, and then we see the terrible things that they do. The terrible only is relevant because we don't believe in some of their, let's call it, their more behind the scenes practices that they have to do involving certain people that's irreversible. And a lot of the doctrine that, you know, don't do this, don't do that, becomes the very doctrine that people who follow Satan kind of have to do. Because it would make sense, right? If you want to follow Satan 100%, you're going to have to reject Christ. And you're definitely going to have to blaspheme God and kind of hurt him and try to hurt God in ways by attacking his children, attacking his kingdom. And that's where I'm not going to say my respect leaves or ends, but that's where I don't respect the practice. I understand the theology of it. If God says do this, but you want a completely different kingdom, it has to be everything that God is not. So now, in God's infinite living or infinite loving mercy, extended even to Satan and the angels, he still has a kingdom. He still is relatively free to move and do what he wants. He still has people worship him and follow him into, you know, their version of death, the second death rather. And that to me is more like the entire concept of Satan and God and, you know, following Luciferianism or, you know, things like that. It's really, it all comes back around to Christ, which is crazy. Every knee will bow and every tongue will confess. That's an important thing, because even in the satanic world, the only reason they're allowed to do what they're allowed to do is because of the love of God. And the establishment of the two kingdoms allows, well, there's more, but there's only two principal forces at work: God and Satan. His kingdom, God's kingdom, and every other sub-faction that works in between that. We leave creation out of it. I don't call it nature anymore. I simply say creation. The ants, the birds, the bees, the microbiomes, etc. And the way that Satan can manipulate those two. So the main reason that I respect it is because I kind of understand, you know, if you were the next in line in all creation and you saw him make something else that he loved more, made it in his own image, you were made in his image, kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of, like, I can understand, I can empathize with it to a degree. I really can. Like, the theology of why Satan left heaven, wanted to start his own kingdom, blah blah blah, it's totally noble. I totally understand it in a way. Because then you have to understand that from the very nature of that, you know, like for me, for instance, like, it's not good to steal, right? It's not good to steal. It's not good to kill people. But that comes literally because I feel like I'm kind of imprinted with God's heart, meaning that certain things will not fit with me and will fit with me. So, like, a good example is, like, you know, killing a child. Somebody's like, hey, kill this child, I'll give you a lot of money. Well, no, I don't really care about the money. There's really no amount of money you could give me to kill a child, because there may not be a good reason for it. Like, you just can't do it, right? And another person would be like, absolutely, I'll kill that child. $5 million, give me the hammer. And that, I think, is the division between the two kingdoms, is that basic system there. And so it's just one kingdom is the exact opposite of another, but wants the same thing that the other kingdom has. This is the difference. The children of God, we simply want to walk with God. We want to be given our daily bread. We want to move through life with grace, walking with God forever, and allowing him to basically provide for us ways that we can't provide for ourselves, while trying to provide for ourselves. It's kind of weird, but, and also pursuing some of life's passions, enjoying, you know, every day to the fullest, having a good time, working hard, having a good time, growing and walking with him, etc. And Satan's kingdom wants to be worshipped, and they want to be loved, and they want to have fun. They want all the same things that we do. The difference is their approach to get it is much different. And they have to live the physical life here, that rough 120 years. They have to live that in far more abundance, otherwise the deal is no good. If you let Christians live free, like without control, without taxes, and we were able to build our own kingdoms and stuff like that, everything would look much different. Satan would have to go and then completely take over, you know, and basically do what he does in a lot of the Old Testament, which is every couple generations, children of Israel completely divulge into the worst of the worst, and then they send a prophet and they get saved based on the relationship he had with Abraham. And it just repeats and repeats and repeats. All the way up until literally you have a group of people who are the actual children of God through Abraham, and they are actually killing God because they don't know him anymore. That's the point. So that's the time system is what tells us how this stuff works, and it just repeats. Good raised bad, out of bad, God raises up good, and then everything changes and gets saved, and it restarts again. So like I respect the scale, size of Satan, and the complexity of Satan's kingdom, but I'll never be a part of it. I'll never be a part of it. Because I've been able to see it really I've been able to see it with very clear eyes for a long time now. No one else seems to be able to, which is fine. I totally understand. So I don't knock it, I don't blaspheme it, I don't go out of my way to de-occult it or to expose it, because everybody knows. They just don't care, which is fine. Nobody has to. It doesn't affect your day-to-day life. What happens in the world, you know, the fact that we have more slaves now than we've ever had about recorded human history. It's irrelevant to most of us. It doesn't affect your hell. I mean, most people, the more slaves we have, the cheaper the prices are in the store, so you're happy. Benefiting from those salt farms in Indonesia and all the slave help, and yeah, there's a lot to it. We all benefit from it, so like we can't. It's just terrible. The whole system is messed up, and that's the whole point. Is everything now belongs to, you know, not God. It's His, given to us, and then given back to Satan. So it's not that I respect his kingdom, and I respect his provision and his dominion. It's just like Christ says, give to Caesar what is Caesar, and give to God what is God's. We're not supposed to give anything to Satan. That's the big difference, though. We're supposed to let him keep the sin, the attitudes, the evil, the vile, the ungodly aspects of existence. We're supposed to let him keep those. We don't need them. And every strength that we have has some kind of tremendous temptation with it. That comes with it. Strength, you know, like you're extremely strong in one aspect and extremely weak in another. It's basically the rock, paper, scissors system approach to balancing out life. And in that is where Satan is able to find his room to grow. And personally, as a man, I had an issue there, but what I was trying to say was that if I have, let's just say for instance, that I have to fight somebody. I don't want to kill them in their sleep. I want to fight them face to face, and I want the victory to mean something, and I want to win. I want to have the broken bones. I want to have the scars. I want to have the experience of a world-class battle that will impress generations for ages. I want to be remembered. I want to be, you know, I don't know anymore, but I want the hardest, most hard-fought, difficult experience that you can have. And I've always had that, and I've been very naturally kind of drawn to that life, comfort in the discomfort. And because of that, literally, I don't fit in with that kingdom. And it's so hard to explain, because there's crossovers between Christianity, pagan festivals and things like that, and then also straight kind of satanic Luciferian systems. And a lot of it's waved around in our face that people don't understand, which is fine, because if you don't know, you don't know, and it'll never bother you. You celebrate all of your holidays, you keep doing stuff that the Bible says not to do every year in December, and wonder why things don't work out the way that you want them to. Like at some point there's a system where you have to start following God if you want to know, or at least know first, come to a decision, and then you can start the growing process. I've already studied all that. That wasn't even the hard part. The hard part was understanding the systems that go, the depth that the systems will go through to distract you, so that people don't know. It's just insane to me. It's absolutely insane to me that I guess it shouldn't really be that way, but I should be used to it at this point by now. I'm not exactly a young man anymore. But it's still frustrating. It's still saddening to see the state of the world and see how most people will never be able to change or have a better experience or a better outcome ever. They will be perpetually, forever stuck in this endless 6th grade reading level, 25 IQ, kind of a zombie automatic coast through life, and it will never change. Which is actually very crazy. I wish there was a way to do something about it and like wake people up in a massive way. But there's also danger in that too. You know, if I was, let's just say that my Red or Blue Pill video got 100 million views. That's 100 million people who can start thinking critically, analyzing and evaluating everything. And once so many people think a certain way, it starts to mess up the control systems, and that's when violence comes. So ignorance breeds a degree of peace, in a way, because violent action isn't being forced to be taken against us to keep us in check, right? So in a way, it's probably better for a vast majority of people that they never wake up and understand what's happening in the world around them. Too many people trying to change it would have a cause effect, kind of system. So all I can do is make these little videos randomly to try to help people, the few who find it, to know that you're not alone with depth of thought. To know that there's other people out there who think deeply and they're intelligent, and they just probably don't live in your area. So we'll have to come together through YouTube and comment sections to be able to find friends that can match friendship with us in the way that is honest between a lot of people. You know, if I'm really dumb, then it's hard to find friends, in a way. If I'm really, really, really smart, like brilliant smart, it's hard to communicate, vice versa. There's a whole lot of things there. And the world is very ignorant of Satan's kingdom. And that's why so many people almost follow it. Like, they follow a lot of practices and they don't even know that they're satanic, because they've done such a good job of hiding it and blending it into society and things like that. And then the churches preach against the most dumb things, and they completely forget, that it's not about putting the focus on sin. It's not about putting the focus on Satan and demons and exorcism and all this. That's a small part of it, if it's a part of it at all. The whole point is to follow God. That's it. Follow God honestly and seek and learn. And try your best to not do the things He doesn't want you to do. The thing is that, when you do them, called sin, they separate you from Him eternally and make His Son. Basically, they're the reason He had to come die. He did it happily, by the way. And He even did it for the people that hated Him. He did it for a kingdom that celebrated His death. And through that, final victory is His. It's the reason He has the ability and the dominion to cast out demons. It's the reason He can walk on the water, which is the dominion of those who were kind of damned after the flood, basically. There's some pretty cool videos on that, really cool. I'm excited to read the book of Enoch. That's my goal for this year, is to finish the book, or to buy and read the entire book of Enoch, and then in conjunction with that, maybe have maybe an Ethiopian Bible. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Basically, in a nutshell, if I was going to phrase this video very quickly, I would say that the reason I understand and respect the power that Satan has, his original standing in life, who he was as an angel, and everything that you can romanticize about him. I get it, I understand, I really do. But his kingdom is not following my God. It doesn't follow who I naturally want to go to. And I'm sure there's people out there that naturally can't follow God. It would be a complete struggle for them. And they can very naturally follow Satan. Because, you know, you're Satan's child. And, you know, you're just going to follow your God to whatever path they have prepared for you in a way, if that makes sense. And Satan doesn't have a place, he didn't have a place that he prepared. He has a place that was prepared for him by God. So I think it would be better just to go to the person, theologically speaking, that says, hey, I'm going to prepare a way for you so that when you die and you leave this life, you spend eternity with me in some form of paradise, whatever that means. And I'm building you a place. That's the reason I'm, you know, here on earth, I'm a construction worker. I'm a carpenter. I'm building stuff. It's because I'm building physical stuff. I'm building my kingdom. And then when I get back to heaven, I'm building you kingdom stuff. And it's like, it's not really this super complicated theological discussion. You have God who has created everything, and he has set rules that you have to follow in order to get there. In order to demonstrate that and to also deal with your potential slip-ups, he went ahead and said, I'm going to go ahead and step back. I'll be the scapegoat. I'll be the lamb without blemish, and you guys don't really have to. I'm basically taking the pressure off of you. So I just need you to try. And I need you to definitely pay attention to the Son, because that's going to be the focal point for generations. That some people will not be able to accept that Christ is King. Christ is God. And that's because the love of God was not in them, and they weren't able to discern that. They never knew God, therefore they never knew Christ. They didn't recognize. They belonged to Satan. Which in a way is not even bad, because you just get to stay with your eternal Father. Heaven looks, you know, heaven and hell, I'm sure look a bit different. They're contrasting viewpoints, but there's a train coming, so I'm going to go ahead and end this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and hope you all had a wonderful time. Enjoy my gameplay clips. I just recorded that, and I'm exhausted from it. I know they were some good games. I had some great shots. And enjoy watching me rank up this season. Tomorrow's video is going to be, I may not use all those videos, but I'm going to do a ranked match breakdown of my stuff. Simply because I don't know if I did that good, really. I felt like I was doing good, but I don't really know. So y'all have a wonderful night, and I will see you in the next video.